because I want to remind us all that those who are on our volunteers pack are requested to obligate to some volunteering. And if they don't have yet a project, please speak with someone in your country that was assigned to that country, or speak with me, and we will assign you a task. And it can be, of course, something to do with content to be shared with everyone. It can be help with publishing materials on one of our social media channels. It can be, of course, helping to activate some local conferences. We have people in Israel helping to set up the Israeli KM annual conference, and we have people in other places helping to set up annual conferences. So any help that suits you can help. Here I see Rinat, who's helping me with the technical horrible work of finding addresses of people and sending them new books on knowledge management. And we have so many ideas how people can help. And we have so many ideas also for next year, because next year we will have another additional course. And we will, I will publish the information probably somewhere on September. Next year, we're going to hold an advanced and new KM methodologies course. It will probably not take place on August. We already learned. Speaking about our lesson today, we are learning our lessons. It won't be on August. It will start probably on January or February. And therefore, somewhere around September or October, we will start the registration and we will send you all the details. And we call everyone and one of you to register to our course also next year. Before I start speaking about our next year course, our AI course going from next year to this year, and I want to go back to our course that we are now holding. But before I speak about our session today, I will share my screen with you, and I will remind you all that on session 23, that will be on August 31st, our last lesson, it's your turn to share. Every one and one of us, every one and one of you are requested to prepare one slide and to speak 60 seconds saying what AI project would you start now that you learned so much along the way? What is our role as KMers? Where is our contribution? Where is our special added value that they didn't think about? What are we suggesting to do? And of course, if there is additional material that you think that should be learned, that should be acquired, developed, please note it. If there are some people that are too shy and do not want to speak, please send us the slide and we will show it without you speaking out. It's fine as well, but we wish that as many as people that are willing to will speak 1 minute about their AI dream, of course, assuming no constraints, because we know that today in the context that you maybe there are not yet opportunities, maybe things are not mature enough. Dream. Think about the vision. Speak about where you think you want to be and you should be, and not where you can be tomorrow morning. So that is one reminder. And from here we go to our lesson today, and I will mute us all just a moment. Why don't I, okay, I can't see the mute button because I am, oh, here we go. Just a minute, please. Mute all. Okay, so now today we want to speak about lessons learned. But before we will start, before, I want to remind us all to give, a very small wrap up about what we were doing the last weeks. So let us start. We spoke the past few weeks, 5-6 weeks, about the knowledge manager's role in AI projects. We said that there are projects that are, of course, they are marked, they are branded as KM projects because they deal with search, because they deal with text, because they deal with finding experts. But we are not speaking about these projects. We are saying that every AI project, in every AI project, the KM has a special role. And we spoke about his role in several aspects. First of all, we said that the KM has a great added value in mapping the business challenges, in helping the organization to choose the right business segment where you should do an AI pilot, or later on an AI project or an AI initiative. We spoke about, wow, I have to, in order to see what I'm speaking. Okay, that's better. We spoke about knowledge engineering. Art spoke with us about all the levels. When we start with the business process, the baseline process, we add to this part, we model this process, we understand it, we model it. We don't only model the basic process, but we model it with its challenges, with its risks, with all that is on top of it, with the different scenarios, with the different personas working on it. When we have a model, the algorithms may be chosen. Maybe this task is not ours. Maybe other people can help us choose the algorithms. Maybe we can choose them, because we're not speaking about writing the algorithm, rather choosing what is appropriate for our project. So maybe in the first few projects, other people will help us, and later on we can help choosing them by ourselves or as part of the team. Later on, after we start operating these algorithms on our data, we don't only look at the data and what the machine thought, we add in the SME's input, the subject matter experts' input. And we perform sense making on both what the machine taught us and what the SMEs taught us. The truth is more complicated because we use the SMEs also before and also ongoing when we work on it. And then we improve the machine and the human operation, iteration after iteration after iteration. So that is some tasks that have to deal with the knowledge engineering. We spoke also about the role of the KMO in data management, because you have to start with bringing in the resources, and someone has to evaluate the data's first of all to decide where to take the sources from, but to decide what's its reliability, what's the validity, does it match, if it's okay to cleanse the data. Very difficult. A great percentage of the project is in this stage to define the taxonomy. If it's supervised, to classify the data. If it's unclassified, to be sure that the taxonomy is tight. To manage the storage, where should it be stored? How should it be stored? What's on the cloud? What is downloaded to our servers, etc. To governance all the information. You know, every word here, it's a full world of work to do. And of course, to manage invalid data. So we always spoke about managing invalid data, but here in AI projects, it's critical, because if we don't take out the data that is not already irrelevant, because let's say we take 5 years and now we have the COVID-19, or the COVID, it's not already COVID-19, we have the COVID. So if we look at the 3 years before the COVID, we will get other answers that make the machine decide in an incorrect way. So it's very important, even more than in other projects, to all the time manage the invalid data and see that it doesn't interrupt in the way. What else can we do? What else can we do? Do we have to help? Where else can we help? We help in the project management, in the document management of the project, in the risk management when we use BARs and other tools of pre-mortem in helping using the information and the knowledge that already was gathered in the past in order to understand what are the new risks of the future. We help in all what has to do with the knowledge curation and the knowledge sharing inside the project, the communication. We help in bringing up communities of practice like we do in regular projects, like we help other projects, and in peer assistance like we help other projects. So we also wear the hat of the KMO as we do in regular projects. But here, of course, we have much more to do. And we also deal with lessons learned, and that's what we're going to speak about today. So you have the material, Art and Annie was speaking about it stage by stage, part by part, and just I put it all together. I wrapped it all up because I think that it gives us added value to see the big picture, why it's not only a cliche saying that KMers have so much to contribute to AI projects, but it's a reality that we understand and the world does not understand yet, and we have to help them be there. Okay, so I ask you please, dear people, to read the Sloan Review. I won't ask you how many had time to read the review. Just a minute, I want to share the document. Of course, I'm not asking you to read the full 20 pages now, but if you did not read it, I am now showing you, I'll even enlarge it so it will be easier to see here. That organization that facilitates systematic and continuous learning are those that will succeed. In AI projects, of course, I'm not speaking about other things. I'm speaking about AI projects. And that's the bottom line, that organization learning is a critical factor in the success of AI projects. Now, I urge you to read this document, not only because because you'll find here additional important information pieces. And I'll show you, for example, and I won't show you, and I'm just now made you curious. So now you will, each one and one of you, if you didn't read it, I'm sure that I have a better chance of you reading it, but you understand how organizational learning is important. Okay, so let's go into the details. And let's start with a poll. Okay, so I'll escape. And I want to ask us, how many of us have dealt with lessons learned projects not in AI, but in KM, in regular knowledge management activities? How many of us had the opportunity, let's say in the past 2 years, over the past 3 years, to deal with KM projects? And in order to answer this question, just a minute, I'll go back. In order to answer this question, I prepared us a poll. And okay, we have it here. So I'm sure that you are familiar with Menti. So those who are not familiar with Menti, please write menti.com. And please go and add, I will put it on the chat. I entered our, sorry, not in Hebrew. I entered our code. Please go to menti.com and answer. How many lesson learned projects did you manage in the past 2 years as part of KM initiatives? None, few, more than few, so many that I cannot count. Okay, great, great. Shall I add some music into it? You want me to sing, to dance? So you will cooperate?
Yeah,
Please,
do that.
please sing and dance. Yeah, please sing and dance.
I'm not sure that we really wanted that me singing and dancing, but we can see that up to now, we know how to run we know how to run lessons learned. Maybe only the minority did it many times, but most of us did it at least several times. I see that there are some that also did not run any any lessons learned projects. So I try to bridge the knowledge and to speak also to the blue ones and also the yellow ones and all those in between. So let's go back. Okay. Let's go back. And let's ask ourselves, why is learning so important in AI projects? And please unmute yourself, throw answers, not in the chat, call out, because I won't see the chat. Unless you want Annie to speak in your voice.
Well, as in with most projects, the quicker you learn, the faster you do. So performance is a key relative outcome of any of lessons learned. But in AI, you've got a couple of things. You've got a new technology that's continually changing. So that requires more learning intent to start with. Amen.
Edwin already pointed out two things. Let's see if additional people want to add. Yes,
apart from that, I think AI itself requires learning for it to be effective. So input comes from us, but at the same time, when the AI is showing results, we also, as the people who is working on it, need to learn what is the impact of the outcome is coming up from the AI itself. So that's, I think, in a way, we learn from people is learning as well as the machine and the software is learning at the same time. So if there's no learning or the learning goes wrong, then the project will fail.
Great. I was more particular, I was speaking about lesson learning, but you are absolutely correct. So I will continue, and later on I will ask additional questions. I love it when you answer and I don't speak alone, because otherwise I'm bored. So as you said, learning is important in every project, because we always want performance, we always want to be efficient, to be effective. So learning is always important, but in AI it has special importance, because AI is an evolving and not yet stable. And because it's evolving and not yet stable, we do not know the right answers. And we need to fine-tune ourselves. And we have to find the right routes. And even though you are listening to our lectures and we seem very sure in what we say, next year we will know more, each one and one of us. Furthermore, learning is part of the AI project, as Arif said, part of its cycles, because when we learn, we spoke about the project management cycle, and not the cycle, the stages. But when we speak about an AI project, it is a cycle. It is a cycle where you learn, when you test, when you want to test the machine, or when you all the time, you again and again bring it, you refine your data, you operate the machine, you analyze the results, you learn from them, and you go again and you fine-tune the data, you fine-tune the algorithm, you fine-tune you operate it again, you check it again, you learn again, etc., etc., etc. So the project of AI itself, learning is embedded as a part of the iterations that we do again, again, and again. Yet, I will say that I spoke with more than one, I'll be gentle and say that I speak with several, more than one, AI people, and if you ask them, how do they learn? How do they make this lessons learning process? How do they do it? They, in what world? Intuitively. And if I ask them if they think that a systema, a method would help them, they say no need. We do it great, intuitively. We know how to do it. But we already know as KMers that operating lessons learned like other KM methodologies with a well-tuned method makes it more efficient and more effective. So it's really not only a need, it's not only a process there that we can do because we know how to do it, but it's a need because it's so essential and they don't know how to do it really systematically. Maybe there's one here and one there, but I'm generalizing. When I speak with more and more people, I hear the same answers. And of course, that organizational learning with AI increases success. Where did I take this sentence from? MIT Sloan report, pre-assessment for today. Thank you, Vincent, for sending it to me 2 months ago. I changed the pre-reading assignment because of you. Okay, so we know that learning and lessons learning is important. I want to say that it's critical, not only once, but in several stages, in several steps in our project. First of all, when we try and choose the best algorithms. You know, there are rules of thumb that in these cases, it's better to use these algorithms. And in other cases, it's better to use other algorithms. But when we choose the wrong algorithm, we can stop, debrief, and try again. But learning with a method, with a methodology is very important. So it's important when we choose the algorithm. It is important. I wrote down algorithms because many times we use more than one and we combine them for several usages. It's most important, or it's very important at least, when we cleanse the data. Because again, the way that people cleanse the data is intuitively. And if big data people tell me that this is 70% of the project, so you understand that doing it with a good methodology of lessons learned, improving from iteration to iteration is really critical. It's important, of course, in training the machine. As we said, iterations of data, algorithm, operation, the machine didn't operate good enough. What was wrong? Going back. In between, lessons learned. It's important in tuning the machine before we turn to production. It's critical also after we move to production, because one thing that we do not find in regular projects, and we do find in AI projects, that the machine has to be monitored also after we went out to production. You know, I have a software piece. If there are no changes in it for 2 years and it worked well for 2 years, it will probably work well also the next 2 years. But that's not the case in AI, because in AI, also if I didn't change the modeling and if I didn't change the algorithms, I do change the data, because the data is all the time flowing into the system. And because it's flowing into the system, we see the biases. We've also found them on the training, and we also find them in production stage. And we have to monitor the machine's performance and the machine's validity of decisions or recommendations, whatever it will be. And therefore, when it doesn't work correctly, when there are biases, and we have to analyze them, please debrief using lessons learned methodologies. So this is why it's so important and where it's so important. What do we use it for? In order to implement our specific project better, faster, to get to the better results much faster, and in some cases to better results. We use it also not only for the project implementation, but also in order to fine-tune the machine. But not only in the context of the project management and the machine management. It's also, we use it in the context of organizational future behavior, because we will have tomorrow additional projects and additional initiatives. And we can, of course, reuse our lessons, and not only in the context of the project and the specific machine. Now, because we are KMers, I will add the last sentence. We know today that one of the skills of the 21st century, of the tomorrow employee, is knowing how to collaborate within the organization and across organizations. We know today that that one of the attributes, one of the skills of the new employee is cross-organization collaboration. So if we know it, it also counts here, not only in other places. Any questions? So let's dive into how we do it. But in order to understand how we do it, I want to offer some assumptions. If we want to learn with a systema, with a well-defined method, it must be efficient. Because if it won't be efficient, people won't use it. If we will have the best systema, but it will take people not an hour, rather 2 days or 2 weeks in order to perform it, we will not be able to perform lessons learned debriefing sessions more than once. And we have to do it dozens of times, so many times in the project, as you already understood. So it really has to be a very, very efficient systema. It does not only have to be efficient, it has to be effective, because we can do things very, very fast in a rush. But if they're not effective, go back to the intuition. You don't need us. And we need something in addition. We need the knowledge that we learned to be reused again and again, because too many times we find in our organizations that lessons are actually, they think that they learn it, they debrief, they have new lessons, but they are not actually learned because they are not used and the organization doesn't change. So we need a system that is sufficient and effective, and we have to also know how to help the organization reuse the knowledge. And we can bring this systematic approach. And I want to speak about the well-known after action review method, but I want to give us tips and tricks how to do it efficient and effective. Because AR we can find anywhere, but I want to add in the second level, how to do it efficient and effective. We can also speak about how to manage the lessons in a knowledge base, how to make them better reused after, how to make them accessible, how to make them closer to those who need them when they need them. But as you see the framing, I will not speak about it today because I have another 30 minutes before we go back to asking questions. And I don't have time also to speak about managing lessons. I'll send you to additional materials to learn, to read, to see. I'll help whoever wants to see it. Maybe we'll put it in our next year's course, the day after debriefing, but it cannot be here. I apologize, only because the scope of time and attention. So let's dive in. If we want to dive in, we first have to understand our biases, human biases and machine biases. Many important thought leaders have taught us that people have cognitive biases. I learned a lot from the work of Tversky and Kahneman. Kahneman got a Nobel Prize. Tversky didn't get it because they worked together and he died before, I'm sorry. But they're not the first ones to speak about human biases, but they indeed upgraded the level of our understanding on these biases. And I will not speak about all the biases, but I will mention a few that are relevant to our AI projects. And the first is anchoring, because when we see data, when we see facts, we anchor them to our past known history, and we anchor the next facts to the facts that we already have on the table. So this is a human bias, and that may make our decisions not as objective as we would want them to be. And therefore, when we bring in a machine and we want the machine to learn, we want it to learn the way that people work, but we want to filter out the human biases. And anchoring is the first one of them. We want us, when we learn the lessons and we analyze, also to understand that we have a bias of availability. That means that we know that we do not have all the information or all the data, but people, they take decisions based on the data that they have in front of them. So if I want the machine to learn how people work, I have to understand this bias. And even though that I know that I don't have all the information, I continue, because I'm human, to make to make the mistake. I won't say that I always make the mistake, to have the bias of thinking differently because the information that is in front of me. If you are pregnant, you will see all the pregnant women in the street. If you have a red car, you will see all the red cars and you will think that there are more red cars than there actually are. And I can go on and on. But this bias makes us tend to make bad decisions. And when we perform the lessons learned, we have to take them into consideration. The next bias has to deal with confirmation. When we decide, we want to be, we call it associative dissonance. We want to conform to our past beliefs. So we will try to connect the new facts to our beliefs. There are other examples, but I'll start with this example, because confirming is also to information that I already have. If someone told me a mistake, something, and it turned to be a mistake, I already thought that it's true. It will be much harder to undo because I already confirmed it. So I will tend to make a mistake on this. Let us continue. We have a bias of framing as people, as human beings. Framing is that if I ask you, I tell you that there are 3 subscription levels to a magazine, and one costs 100, one costs 130, and one costs 140, already giving you the framing of the costs, and you will start thinking that $100 is not too much, because I gave you a basket of options, a list of options that all sit in the same range. So I frame your understanding, and people make this mistake. We also make mistakes that have to do with the prospect theory of Kahneman and Tversky, saying that losing $100 is much more, it affects us much more than maybe earning $100. Therefore, our decision on the range when we are in risk or when we only can gain, our decision is not on the same, it's not linear. And again, there we make mistakes as humans. And we make mistakes dealing with perception. We make everyday perceptions that have to do with the color of our skin, with the gender of people, with their age. And I can go on, but I'll stop here because we all understand. So when we go and start looking at lessons learned and start to AER, we have to learn before that what these biases of the human beings are and how they can act on our data. We have to try and simulate how can they act on our data in order to look for them or before or after in our lessons learned. We also have to recognize and learn about the two main biases of the data, of the underrepresentation of, when we have underrepresentation of data and we have overrepresentation of data. Please help me out. What happens when we have underrepresentation of some population in the data?
The solution is skewed.
Exactly. And what happens when we have representation? We are too happy thinking that the model is perfect. And when you see that you have a model that acts perfectly, please suspect. That means that probably we have overrepresentation. So always seek, when you start lessons learned sessions, ask questions that or take into consideration when you're understanding what did we expect and what happened. Underrepresentation, some populations, maybe they were not considered as part of the training data, and maybe everything was, but some were overrepresented. And now we dive into our action, into our AAR and our 4 well-known questions. What did we expect? Oh, I see that there are people are asking questions or speaking. Do you want to stop me and ask some questions to do with it or add some information? Annie, are you onto it?
Yeah, I am. And most of them didn't appear to be questions. They're just making statements.
Thank you. So
Okay.
4 questions, as we already know. I took a sip. That was a great time to stop. Thank you. Our 4 questions are, what did we expect? What actually happened? Why? And what can we learn from it? Again, we have to be efficient and we have to be effective. These are 2 obstacles. So let's see how we do it. When we ask, what did we expect? This is our first question. So we have to be very, very systematic. And we have to think in all relevant directions. And I'm giving you 4 questions that can assist you to answer this big question. Did we actually end the task? Too many projects that started didn't end. Too many processes of cleansing data started but didn't end. Too many tasks started and didn't end. We ask ourselves a first question. What did we expect? We expected did we end the project at all? The project, the task, something very specific. We ask ourselves, did we reach the objectives that we wanted? At the end of the project, at the training, when did we represent all populations that we want to represent? Did we get decisions that are relevant for all the scenarios that we wanted to get? Did we get good enough answers? Do we ask ourselves, even if everything went fine, did we have unpleasant consequences? For example, maybe we had a breach of data. Our model works perfectly, but we had a breach of data while bringing in the data. So we always have to ask not only be very, very focused into the project, but look outside. Did we have an SME that when we worked and rushed and didn't have too much time to speak with him, we lost him on the way, and now he's insulted and he will not be a source of very important information and knowledge for the continuation of our project. So all the time we have expectations as to the consequences. We don't want anything to be spoiled. Everything that worked up till now, we wanted to continue working. And we also want to do everything meeting our resources: money, time, people. So these are the 4 types of sub-questions that some are more typical to the cleansing stage. Some are more relevant to the project stage when we have lessons learned on the project itself or on the project management aspects. Some are more relevant in all of them, but these are the 4 anchoring questions that we have to start with in order to see what we are looking for. And then we ask what happened. But the most important thing is only to focus on gaps as to our expectations. Don't let people telling stories about what happened when they cleansed the data. What happened in the last iteration of the machine running? Ask ourselves, where were we surprised? Where did things turn better or worse than we expected? You remember as to what aspects we spoke about it. Only look for surprises and please be very concise. Bullet, small, short sentences. Why short sentences? Because if we go into stories, if we go into paragraphs, we will put all our energy in telling people and ourselves what happened. We will feel great with ourselves, but we won't have the energy for the next step that is the most important one, because it's the thinking step. So this step has to be very, very, it's guided because it started with what we expected, but it has to be very concise, and we only write things that surprised us, and we write them very, very fast, or very, very in a concise way. I will quote, the good sentences, good quotes. There are many people who we refer to. Was it Mark Twain? Was it A? Was it B? Was it Oscar Wilde? We have a set of good sentences, and if it's a good sentence, it has at least a few people who we refer to as the source. So a good sentence, a quote that I heard that Churchill was a source, but I cannot guarantee, is that there's one day when he started writing a letter in World War II, and he writes, "My dear friend, I apologize. I do not have time today, and therefore I will write in length." Thank you, Edwin, for the smile. You understood it. Okay, so it's a skill to write concisely, but we have it as knowledge managers. We know how to find the essence, the most important thing, and then we are focused and we can go to the next stage. We can ask ourselves again and again, why? Why did we didn't get the decision? Why did the machine that was trained wonderfully in production give us a bad, again and again, bad recommendations? And we answer it because this population was not represented. And we continue and ask ourselves again, why? Why was this population not represented in the tuning, in the training? And we can answer because we didn't know that it's an important population. So we have to ask ourselves again, why didn't we know that's an important population? And maybe we answer because we spoke only with one SME and he has a perspective, a specific perspective. And here maybe we can stop and say, great, okay, 5 whys, okay, but maybe we can stop after 3. We can say, great. Or maybe we can ask, why did we speak only with 1? We know that we have to speak with at least 3 SMEs. And we say, okay, we were in a rush, so we thought that 1 is enough. And 3 is only nice to have. So we can kick ourselves or give ourselves a slap and say, okay, no matter what, we don't fool around with the data. We always ask at least 2 SMEs. And that's important, not only running to an additional SME, otherwise it will happen again and again. So we go deeper, dig in, stick on to where you have the influence. Never speak about what others are to blame, what others did wrong. Always say they maybe are in charge and I could influence only 20%, but let's look in our 20% where I can influence and see here where can I learn better in my frame, where I can influence. And when we dig in and in, we have to remember the biases. They will help us greatly explain a great deal of our problems. You know, in AI projects, I'll say our life is many times easier than in project management when we speak in general in KM, because we know where we will fall, not in all cases, but in too many cases, and many times we know where we will fall because we know about the data biases and we know about the human biases. So at least it gives us half of the answers. So please use it. Who can learn? The project management, the machine, the team, the SME, the organization, and as we said, also our colleagues, as we are also speaking about collaboration, cross-organization, and between organizations. I didn't add in, I have a book I've written about holistic approach to lessons learned. Those who want something that is shorter, there's an article here. Those who want additional materials about how to do the steps or how to go further, please refer to me. I'll do it very, very happily. And here I stop in order so that we can finish at 5 o'clock, but yet we can before open a discussion as to your thoughts, as to your understandings, as to your learnings from lessons learned in AI projects. Please unmute yourself.
It all ties into innovation. AI is an enabler to innovation, as knowledge management is also, and I think that's a key ingredient that is easily overlooked. As you've really pushed forward the concept of having a systemic process that's expressed, and hearing what some of these cats are saying, that it's, oh, we just do it, you know, it's just natural, it's just, you know, I think it's natural for some people. I think it's absolutely natural for some people, and in my own reality, it's hard to translate that to create a systematic approach, because I would actually have to have a Sherpa walk with me to help pull that out, to create a step-by-step process for someone else to follow, because I'm not sure how I do it. So it really is an interesting look at just human behavior in total. I'm in.
Right, Annie.
Yeah, I think To be honest with you, sometimes I think innovation is is just not needed all the time, because it can be a new idea, it can be different things. I mean, of course, we've already identified a lot, we've already invented a lot, but I think we've gotten away from also realizing that learning can lead to sustainment as well, which is an area that we always kind of overlook. If something is working well and it is meeting the optimum goal, then why should you change it? Because it is a fad. So therefore, sustainment is just as good as innovation, and we need to balance those. So I really think that learning contributes to our, I want to say, our orchestrated improvement, and not so much to our knee-jerk improvements. Okay.
I wish to add and to connect them together. I once sat several hours with a Toyota expert on their excellence method, and I asked him to explain, to give me the concepts and give me the high level ideas, and he struggled around with the tools, speaking about the tools. But when I tried, to capture the understandings, and yes, you got it. And if you speak about excellence, we speak about excellence in 3 levels. First of all, having systema for the current things. Then we ask what goes wrong. That's we tune the machine as to the first understandings. Then we ask what goes wrong, and we ask how to fix it. And there's a 3rd level that we call innovation, that we ask, even if we don't have problems, how can we perform even better? Also in this performing better, we have 3 levels. We have a level of tactical improvements, like in lessons learned. We have a level of strategic innovation, new products, new services, new ways of doing things. And we have the highest level, that's disruptive innovation, that really you have to be probably a genius and an expert in order to get there, but we are still on our way. So bringing it all back together, innovation is part of the equation, but also lessons learned, and they sit side by side. Additional thoughts. I know that we love speaking, all of us, and that's why I tried to shorten my part.
Sure. This is John. One of the ways that I explain this, and I appreciate Annie's point about balance, and I point out that a 1950s organization chart had 2 boxes at the top: R&D and operations. And you look at a organization chart today that looks like maybe Dr. Seuss created it, and you lose sight of the fact that learning is what's happening in the organization. We used to understand that and build organization structure around that there was learning happening within an operational sense, but then there was also learning happening within an R&D sense, the productivity and innovation happening at the same time, and certain people, and maybe within their career, better at one type or the other. And when we can bring that back, and we kind of think about, inventing the future of organizations, there was a lot of wisdom in the past in the way that we did this.
Thank you, John.
Can I ask, what was the organization, John? Can you say?
No, I'm saying that was a generic approach.
Oh,
I mean,
okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any experience in addition with lessons, with trying to perform lessons learned or debriefing or learning within AI projects, and wants to share his or her understandings?
Hi, it's Ian. I would say, so I've got a bit of experience building AI projects. I would say you are going to be wrong a lot, like a lot. And one of the best things I ever did in the projects that I was working on was build into it systems to A, find out if I was wrong, and B, kind of, let's say, check the understanding, check the how how things will evolve in the future, right? So it will be wrong, and I know it will be wrong, and I need to point out, I need to have kind of bits in it that say, okay, it's wrong because of blah, so you need to look at this part, or it's wrong because of this thing over here, so you need to look at that part, right? So we would build an expertise location system. It was the ability to say, is it wrong because the back-end data is wrong? Is it wrong because the algorithm that sits behind it is wrong? Is it wrong because you've made some assumptions about the way the data performs in relation to each other, and that assumption was wrong, right? So being able to kind of break things out like that, because you will be wrong a lot.
Thank you. These are two very important inputs. First of all, when we said that we prepare our expectations, we have a list of questions about where to look for. I spoke about the biases. You are absolutely correct. We also have to speak about the different components that will turn wrong. A and B, I didn't say that up front, but yes, we all are going to be wrong in AI projects. That's part of the process. It's not a regular project. That's how the project works, and that's how we produce the intelligence out of the data. Okay, guys, if we do not have any further questions, then I remind you that please prepare your assignment for the last lesson and send it out to me before August 27 or until August 27. Next week, we will be speaking. I think that I will be speaking again next week. I will be speaking.
It's me.
Oh, it's you? Okay, so
Yes,
I have a week off. So Annie, what will you be speaking about next week?
Tomorrow morning. Where do we go from here? It's not the exact title, but it's tomorrow.
So we're going to speak about
and I'm also speaking with Jay Zaid.
Yes. So okay. So tomorrow morning we want to speak about the implementation, how we get out of our comfortable chair, and where can we open the door a bit in order to start walking, in order to put a foot in the door, in order to go in. So please wait for next week. We are waiting for you all, even though it's August. We know you will be with us. Thank you, and see you all, and have a nice week. A great week.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay, I think we are really getting closer and closer to the end.
Yeah, I think we have 3 more.
We
It's
have
1, and then I think you have the last 2.
Yes, you have 1, then I have 1, and the last one I put aside, and we will reorganize it to enable people to
Yes.
speak.
Yes.
Yes. Dear Vincent, did you prepare us some query for the people?
Yes. No, yes and no. Yes, I started to look into it, but I didn't formalize it. But thank you for reminding me, because it's okay. I will work on it tomorrow or in the upcoming days. Yes, I started to work on it. I didn't finalize it, and then I switched to something else, and I completely forgot. Yes, I will. Yeah,
We
I
are
will take care of it.
multitasking people, but we are not multitasking people at the same time.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes
He's
when
still
there are
in
too many
vacation.
urgent things. No, I'm not. But well, yes and no. But
No, I'm saying in the mind.
I'm in a vacation context,
State
but
of
I'm still
mind.
working. Yes. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
No,
that
I will
we
send it to you.
are connected also, and I hope that the wrap-up was accurate enough.
No, I think it was good at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, so bye, dear friends, and
Okay.
we'll see you next week.
Great. It's good.
Yep.
Bye
See you
bye.
next week. Enjoy your
Annie,
week.
Annie, can I send them the pre-assignment, or you have anything else that you prefer better?
You can send the pre-assignment. It's the same one. It's gonna be the one that's on there. Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Great, bye.
All right, y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.